Welcome back to Real Community Talks, where real conversations with community influencers are made available to everyone. I'm your host, Matt DeSilva, and if this is your first time checking out the show, we meet with some of the dopest community influencers across the Greater Toronto area who, maybe by the world standards, might be micro-level influencers, but we know are doing macro-level things. So each Tuesday night at 6 p.m., we check out their process, we check out their story, and get to see what motivated them into the person they are today. So if you guys have already tuned into episode 1 and 2, you may be wondering why we're kind of starting with an intro, but let us know if you think this is something you'd like us to do to give you a little sneak peek into what the episode's going to be like, maybe some updates that we have on our social media, our channels, or our platforms, and something new today that we're going to start called Promo for Promo. And we've teamed up with the good guys from Backpocket Podcast who are doing the same for us. And I'm not just doing this just because it's a shout out for shout out, but I actually checked out the show and it's really great stuff. So you guys need to check them out. I know the boys just graduated, so they're blessed to do this full time now, something that I envy. So you guys really need to check out the show. But to give you an idea of what it's about, the Back Pocket aims at bringing life and appreciation to the stories of common individuals. So listeners quickly learn they are not so common after all. In reality, the storytelling illuminates how every person has an innate ability to be an entrepreneur, motivator, and influencer. The hosts Andrew and Sarah and Declan Brown are simply two wildly average guys who fully recognize their flaws. Through their average qualities, they strive to narrate the inspiring stories of each guest. So give them a listen and learn something new from their podcast. They will better your life and motivate you to be the best version of yourself. So guys, something similar to what we're doing, go check them out. I'm pretty sure you can check them out on most major platforms. I know on iTunes, that's where I'm subscribed to them. And also on YouTube, I believe they have a highlights page where they record some videos and stuff for their Instagram as well. But for those who are tuned into episode 3, just before we cue the music, I meet with one of the dopest guys I know in Malta named Adrian Wallace. So we get to hear his story, his process, how he chose to get into acting and creative content creation and directing and all that kind of stuff. And just to hear how someone from Malton is doing something dope, because like I said in some of those episodes before, there's this negative stigma hovering around Malton. So we get to hear all the great things he's doing and get to talk about Malton's dopest web series called Courtside series. It's going to be on Netflix soon. You guys got to check that out. So stay tuned for episode 3 and enjoy the show. Welcome to Real Community Talks, where real conversations with community influencers are made available to everyone. I'm your host, Matt DeSilva, and on today's episode, we have my guy, Adrian Wallace, a.k.a. Jay from the popular web series Courtside on the show today. Adrian, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, man. What's poppin', Matt?
Nothing much, man. Just trying to grind out here and, do the 9 to 5 and the creative thing on the side.
You got to find that balance, man.
Yeah, for sure.
That balance, man.
So before we start, how's the progress on the Killmonger Black Panther hairstyle?
Hey, man. I mean, you kind of see it popping out, you know what I'm saying? But nah, it's going to take a little longer for me to get it where I wanted to. There's a lot of anime conventions coming up, like May North and stuff. So
yeah.
Every year I say I'm gonna go to these events, and I never do. But I feel like if I was to go to, I either want to do something like Blade.
Yeah.
But more recently, everyone loves the character Eric Killmonger.
Yeah.
Including myself, it was a pretty engaging character. So, man, if I can adapt that look, I think it'll be pretty sweet, man.
I know.
You could definitely modify it and make it work for you, know what I'm saying? But the hair needs to grow, man. The hair needs to grow. So, women out there, if you got some hair tips, let me know. Because, let me know. I'm working on something, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought as a Marvel villain, usually they're always typical or, cheesy, but he was actually one of the most dynamic because he actually had a story and a background. And it wasn't that, he fell into, some kind of, I don't know, poison and then it changed him. He was just in the streets. His dad got killed, and he's kind of just on the come up, right?
Yeah, you almost felt for him. I mean, you didn't almost. You felt for him. It's usually villains. It's the guy you love to hate, but this villain was interesting because you're like, hey man, it's his birthright, I actually kind of support him, I feel like it gets to a point in the movie where you're just like, shoot, whose side am I on anymore?
Yeah, I know, right?
Am I going for the antagonist or the protagonist?
For sure. Yeah. So for those of you that may not know who Adrian is, and if you don't, I don't know what rock you're living under, But are you ready for
Chill,
this?
man. I'm not that.
Come on, no. He's too modest. He's too modest. So Adrian is a director and is the executive director and series creator of the popular web series Courtside, like I mentioned. He's a writer. He's a content producer. He's a creative entrepreneur. He's a dramatic talent. He's a comedian. He's a photographer / videographer. He's a workshop facilitator. Is the founder of Buzz and Other Drugs and blogs for other online outlets. An avid shower singer, and pretty much as he likes to put it, is a jack of all trades. So with that, like, okay, do you agree with the statement, a jack of all trades, a master of none? You ever heard that one?
I did. First of all, let me just comment on the shower singer thing. I actually told you that in confidence, but it's cool. I'm gonna let that slide.
Oh, my bad.
No, I'm messing with you.
Cut that out.
Yeah, I have heard the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. However, I mean, we've been kind of put on this. We get one chance, like on Earth, to do everything that you want to do. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you could be a master at one thing, but you see, I feel like life is just too complex, and I mean, the opportunity to be skillful at more than one thing is right in front of us. So, I'm really just trying to take advantage of the time that I do have and try to make it work, man. Like, I feel like I'm interested in a lot of things, and there's opportunities to be good at many things, and it might take more time. However, I've been put on this earth to exhaust my talents, man. So, jack of all trades until one of those doors break down, and that's it, man. So,
so a lot of people know you for being this multifaceted individual, doing all these things. So why don't you kind of talk about your origin story? So who's Adrian Wallace, and where are you from?
All right. So, I grew up actually in a small neighborhood that resides within Mississauga called Malton. Yeah, I did I guess a good half of my school there, elementary, middle school. But middle school was kind of weird because, like, in grade 6, I was going to a local middle school located in Malton called Morning Star, and at the end of that year,
my sister's throwing gun signs in the back.
Yeah. Oh man. I didn't bring my bulletproof vest today, but, wow. Yeah. So I went to this middle school locally, where we grew up, Malton, or where I grew up, Malton. Well, actually, you're from Malton too, so I'm not lying when I say we. But yeah. So I grew up. I went to a school locally, Morning Star, and then at the end of grade 6, my mom saw my report card and she saw all straight A's in French. French especially, that kind of like stood out to her. Yeah. She's like, hey, my son's a French genius. I'm like, Mom, I'm not a French genius. French is just really easy here, you know what I'm saying? So she decided to just send me off to a school in Brampton, French immersion school, called W.G. Davis. And I struggled. I struggled because it just wasn't really what I'm a kid. I'm not expecting to, like, it felt like I was being sent off to a private school, because you got to take in mind that, like, I'm still young, so going to, like, even a different region feels like you're being sent off, far and wide. And especially because I had to travel there, because on days where the buses weren't running, it was just me, man. I had to get to school, and like I feel like I had to discipline myself at a younger age than most kids would have to. But I mean, nowadays you have like really, really young kids taking transit, so I mean, like, I just feel like our generations are maturing for sure. So it's kind of part of that overlap. But anyway, so I went there, struggled. And then eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm here. My mom obviously believes in me, and she thinks there's something, academically gifted here. So let's try to explore it. And then eventually I kind of snapped out of this this fall that I was in academically, going to this French school. And then I kind of pursued it all the way through high school. Went to turn to Fenton, which is like a lot of people call it like a school for smart people, because it has like an IB program, which is like a highly challenging academic program. It has French, which the program that I was in.
So you're still doing French while you're at Turner?
Yeah, so I'm still doing French. So like most of my courses, like your regular mandatory courses that you had to take in high school, like geography, history, obviously you have to take a French course, like that's like the baseline. But I mean, like, most of the courses that you take as a part of a regular high school curriculum, I had to take in French. So I had to take history in French, which I feel like,
history's bad.
Like, history is bad in English. Like, and I had to take it in French, especially like imagine having to do exams and writing, like retaining knowledge, and not just in English, but you have to learn it, and you have to read it in French, translate it in English, retain it in English, and then find a way to to retranslate that into French. Like, it was challenging, man. And then geography too, because like a lot of these courses are dense and you got to remember a lot of information. That's all it is, just information retainment, right? So I had to do all those things in French, even anthropology in grade 11.
Yeah.
So and then I got to like this interesting space at the end of my year where I was just like, this French thing is kind of like throwing me off, because I'm like, I feel like I wasn't able to really explore as much as I wanted to in high school, because I had so much focus and stress on trying to just like finish the French program good.
Yeah.
And that was without thoughts of me. That was without me having thoughts that I was going to take French more and more serious. I mean, there's a lot of government jobs you could get when you speak fluent French, and I just wasn't taking that serious, because at the back of my mind I knew that I wanted to do something that I was more passionate for. You know.
Yeah.
If I was thinking of just making money and just having like a decent life and just living like, you know, ordinary, I guess, then I think I would have taken it more serious, like even after high school, and like pursued it, made sure I stayed on top of it, practiced it. But the passion was just way too strong, man. So you know, after taking a year off, just kind of thinking and just like relieving myself from you know, academic stress, because at the time I was actually really interested in teaching. I wanted to teach phys ed.
Oh wow!
So very, very interesting transitions that I've been through, but I kind of just needed that break. So I took like a year off after high school. And then I just said, you know what? I got to stay true to my passions. Like, am I going to go to university or, you know, and study like kines and
like everyone does,
you know what I'm saying? And then regret it after. But I mean, shout out to everyone that has actually stuck their guns through it, you know, because like it takes work, you know, but you got to be real with yourself, you know. That's why the early stages of like school and education are so important. Especially, you know, when there's money involved, you know, some people got to borrow money from OSAP, so it kind of puts even more stress on it. It's just like, am I borrowing money to get in debt for something I'm not going to pursue for the rest of my life? Like, it's, I know, I've been through that, man. Like, you know, so I understand. So yeah, I mean, I just had to take that time off to kind of just reevaluate what I wanted to do with my life and in my career. And then ultimately I decided to just stay true to my dreams. So I went to Humber College for comedy writing and performance.
Another gun sign thrown up.
Yeah, geez, he's really shooting. Hey, it's 2018. Shoot your shots. You know what I'm saying? Shoot your shot. Did you do something to piss her off or something?
Honestly, I'm more scared of her nails. Like, I actually have scars on my wrist from like the thing is, you ever like, do you have a sister?
I do.
So you ever like get into those fights where like, you know, you're going toe to toe, and then like when your mom comes in, she's like, you're not supposed to hit girls. I'm like, yeah, but she wasn't fighting. Like,
you know? You see, I feel like. And I know I'm going to be hated for saying this, but I feel like girls take advantage of the fact that they're girls, you know, and not that they shouldn't, but it's just like, you know, when it comes to like, you know, political views and, you know, family, oh man, like mother's always going to side with it.
They use it when they want to, and then when it's like, it almost like puts them at a loss. It's like, you shouldn't say that. But people are gonna like all the females just stop watching right now.
Trust me, man. Growing up with my sister and her as a baby, like my dad was just a sucker for her, man. Even if we weren't at fault, it's just like there's always a way to put the pin on me and my brother, you know. So it's very interesting. But
So you said that you went to Humber College. And you got 2 advanced diplomas. So you got the one in comedy writing and performance.
Correct.
And then you got film and television production. So, you know, a lot of being a youth worker, a lot of my youth, you know, especially within the South Asian community, they want them to kind of fit the stereotype of a typical doctor, a lawyer, you know, an economist, a business person. And sometimes they'll even like, a lot of them support businesses, but only certain types of businesses, right? I don't think they've kind of gone along the lines of respecting the entrepreneur and someone who doesn't necessarily have an office space, but, you know, can work from a laptop in a building and have a business.
That's 100% facts, man. And I think part of it's because of the reward doesn't come as immediate as some of these other ones. I mean, like, even to study to be a doctor and be a lawyer, you still got to put in the investment of time, you know, and go through all those stages of school. But it's even harder to see an entrepreneur, because like, you might have this great idea, this great creative idea, and it might just never work out for you. So I think it's the fear that you're going to spend all this time without a guarantee. Whereas if you're studying to be a lawyer or a doctor, it is almost guaranteed, you know, I guess depending on the demand of the job. But I mean, like, at least people know that doctors make good money. They know lawyers make good money. And if you're good at what you do, you have focus, then at least you'll get that return back, you know? After the time you spent into it.
Yeah, so like I was saying, like with my youth, I had a specific individual who, you know, all of his family are social workers, and then he said that they said that you need to get into that field because it's gonna make you money, and not that it's like it's gonna help people, but it was a sure thing, right?
Yeah.
But then he's like, I'm really into like arts and maybe even graphic design. So what would you say to like that young person, grade 11, grade 12, wanting to pursue that field? Like, what's some encouragement you can give them, even though, like you said, there may not be a guarantee that, or there may not be tangible ways to show that that's you're being successful within that field, right?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I was that young kid, right? Straight up, I would just say do it regardless. I know you'd probably have to fight with the parents, especially if they're kind of putting in some money financially to support you. Yeah. And I feel like, if a parent does their job right, I think eventually the support will come. I feel like part of the challenge is actually fighting them to convince them that, hey, like, I'm serious about this. And eventually something's got to give, something will give.
Yeah.
Hopefully, right? So, because the worst thing that could possibly happen is that you get, put in this norm or routine of the family, just, and that's not to take away from my people that kind of take over the throne on like a family business or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, especially if your parents are kind of forcing you to do a job that you don't want to, and you really feel passionate about something else, you're going to end up, doing that job that you were forced into, and waking up just stressed because, you want to be excited to go to work,
Yeah.
You don't want to be like, oh, man, I got to go to work. You want to be like, oh, man, I get to go to work, So eventually it's going to hit you, man. It might not hit you immediately, but I would have to say just stick to your feelings, man, because they always kind of speak volumes in the end. So
yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, I know that there is that element where you might have to go through a few fights with your parents, but as much as like I love my family, and I've told my mom this certain times, and most of the time we agree on a lot of things, but at the end of the day, for like those young people, when you're exactly like you said, you're waking up, you're 40 years old, your parents might not be in your life making your decisions anymore. You have to be able to live with the fact that you chose that decision.
Exactly.
And it's going to kind of carry you through the rest of your life. So sometimes you got to take that L and fight and disagree. Some of my kids have been kicked out of their house because they wanted to do certain things. But I always tell them, like, when you're the CEO of that company, or when you're doing that thing, when you can see that tangible, reward, you're going to be like, it was worth it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So obviously, like, we kind of touched a little bit on it in terms of like how it could be, with like tangible results, and it might be a difficult field to be in terms of seeing, growth and whatever. But have you ever gotten to the point where you're like, maybe this thing isn't for me, or if it's ever discouraged you to quit?
Yeah. It's funny because I think there's a combination of different factors that get in your head.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to be a creative entrepreneur and just a creative artist. Because it definitely takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work, and then when you're looking at a time frame, like, the work technically never stops, because when you create the work, there's work that you got to put in to expose your work. So it's like, you could literally be the most talented artist in the world, and it doesn't matter which platform under artistry it is, but if nobody knows who you are, if nobody has seen what you've created, it's like, okay, so like you gotta, like, it's kind of like you don't exist, right?
Yeah.
Especially in that industry. So the work really never stops when you're a creative artist, like, because you got to put in the work to do the work. You got to put in the work to be consistent, and you got to put in the work to actually expose yourself, and you can't even be shy about it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was one of my setbacks earlier on. Just like, is anyone gonna like take me serious? One, is anyone even gonna watch this? Like, am I that engaging of a personality to retain people's attention, and eventually that confidence, you just have to convince yourself that, hey, like, if I'm passionate about this, everything will play out, and I got to be consistent, I got to work. One of the biggest factors actually that is a little bit weird is actually the fear of success. Because, like, everybody wants to be successful.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I got a taste of it, but it's like, if you really start focusing on your vision, man, and you see where you could end up, especially with what you're doing or trying to do, it could be scary to be like, am I ready for that? Like, how is it going to change my life?
Yeah.
And you don't even realize, but subconsciously, that might actually make you slow down on what you're doing.
Yeah. I've actually, it's funny you said that. I actually noticed that in starting this podcast. I did all the research. I got myself ready, got my equipment going, like did some test runs, did all this kind of background work. The first episode, like I had to edit it out like with noise cancellation, but it was like I'm like like breathing heavy, like and it still happens. Like I'm still going through it a few times, but it's like you feel like you're gonna be a certain way, but when you're actually in the field, it's like you're really put to the test, right?
You are, man. Yeah. And the thing is, the biggest test though is you. You're your biggest adversary, your biggest opponent, your biggest doubt. And you're your biggest source of confidence. So if you're not, no one can convince you to do anything. No one can convince you that, hey, this is the right thing. You got to convince yourself. And it starts there, man. So if you have doubts, you got to get rid of them. Yeah. And deal with all the other external problems after, because it all starts from within. And that's why you just got to really believe in what you're doing and hope that it could speak for itself one day, you know, and the rest will kind of play out. But it's we go through it, man. It's just part of what we signed up for, you know. So yeah, that's true. So speaking of things coming to fruition, why don't you talk about what Courtside is and why is it such an important story for you to tell? So Courtside was an idea that I came up with in my third year of film school. We had this assignment in a course I took called Transmedia Development, which was kind of just the exploration of a lot of new formats in the cinematic universe. So web series is one of the hottest things, or the hottest forms of film at the time that my professor took a speculative look into. And we actually got an assignment to pitch one around the time that this Bell Fund called the IPF was launching, or not launching, but kind of came back around because it's an annual thing. Courtside was an idea that I came up with. And essentially, it's an idea that I decided that I wanted to put a microscope on a city, or I should say a neighborhood that I grew up in. I mean, it's right in my backyard, and I've experienced these things. And I kind of just came up with the narrative that I wanted to tell a story about a brother, or two brothers actually. One who was a academically gifted student. He's a high school basketball prospect. I was like, really a lot of potential for his, just making it in a big league. And kind of just showing the journey of what it takes, like the discipline and determination that it would take to really be successful in that. Yeah. Versus his brother who, realistically just doesn't like school. And I think everyone could relate to someone who, just isn't motivated by education, you know? Yeah. So he's all about the Marcus. This is the character. So Jay was the first character, and Marcus is the second character. Marcus is not really motivated by education. He's motivated by respect, street reputation, quick money, quick dollars, like immediate results, right? And it's all about how these two brothers can keep each other afloat without really compromising their goals, Yeah. And so like a character like Jay has to kind of stick to his guns, and he has to stay focused because like it takes a lot of hard work to do this stuff, or to accomplish a goal like that. So, but at the end of the day, they're connected by blood. So it's like, sacrifices have to be made. But it's like, does it get to a point where my dream is going to be sacrificed, right? And it's all about this finding this balance between two brothers on the opposite spectrum of things, and working within a community that could be really pressuring, and environmentally strong. In terms of like subject matters. I really want to use this platform as a platform to discuss a lot of the issues happening in the youth society. Yeah. So that's everything from gang and drug affiliation to sex and relationships. Yep. And even political stuff like police brutality, racism. Definitely. Because these things are stuff that youth are going through, especially youth growing up in like rougher neighborhoods. Yeah. And so I thought it was the perfect platform to actually maybe seriously address this. That's kind of the gist of it. Yeah. And Marcus is played by your brother. Yeah. And I think even your mom's in the show, right? Yeah. So I really liked how not just your family, but even your close friends you involved in this project. Absolutely. So how important was that to you? Oh man, it being a community thing was super important because not only was the community the hub for the project, like this is kind of where everything happened, bad and good, right? Like everything from a positive event to a negative event happens. You know, like people getting jumped, beat up, shot, whatever it was. Yeah. Like this was just kind of the environment that I happened to grow up in. So it really hits home for me, and it didn't make sense to kind of try to go in someone else's community or hub and try to tell a story about what I see there, because like it would feel unnatural. Like one of my biggest things and wants for this project was to tell an authentic story, and you can't really tell an authentic story unless you've actually experienced it in some way, right?
Yeah.
Or at least was deeply connected to it,
Yeah.
So yeah, it was huge, man. Especially because in communities that I grew up in, that's kind of publicized as a rough neighborhood.
Yeah.
Malton. It's easy to kind of believe that nothing good could come out of it.
Yeah.
And so when kids see that, hey, there's some cameras around here, like it actually gets them excited. When they see things that they don't think would ever happen here, it just kind of draws them to it. It magnetizes them, and they want to be part of it. So it was really refreshing, and it was a real blessing to see so many people just want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Just because it not only made them feel better, and they were helping obviously me as a creative make the story come to life. I think that's just kind of the power of a community, man. Because when everyone comes together, like great things could be accomplished. So
true.
It was super key. It was super key to kind of have this built around the community and the help received from the community, because otherwise it would have been impossible to do for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was really happy about that.
So being a storyteller through film, like how do you put out content without having to walk on eggshells? Because I feel like we live in a culture, in a society where like anything and everything you say, it's like it offends some type of group, or like this, like the smallest of things.
Yeah, to be honest, man, I don't think that there is a way to 100% prevent yourself from walking on eggshells. Yeah. Like, and I was just thinking about this the other day. I just feel like you never really want to sacrifice being authentic, just so that you kind of soften the blow on someone's eardrums. I just feel like a lot. It's part of the problem is because there's a lot of sensitive people out there.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they're more outspoken than the people that don't walk on eggshells as much and just kind of just live this free-minded world and able to express themselves freely without any like pressures of how people might view them and stuff. And for those who are supportive of just being expressive without any filters, those are the people that got to step up, because right now we're being drowned out by all the people that are sensitive. And not to say that we shouldn't be mindful of what we do. For example, like in Courtside, I feel like one of the constant things I got to think about is like, okay, if let's skip ahead here where it might be pitching this to a network. It's like, like, do I want to sacrifice an authentic performance, an authentic story for being clean, and that means like filtering out offensive language, and that can take away from the performance, because sometimes in the performance, that's what it calls for. Yeah. And to be honest, we've actually missed opportunities because of that, because it's kind of risky. It's like, unless those execs actually could relate to the content and understand why it has to be said that way or done that way, they'll probably never take a chance on it, man. Yeah. And even though there might be a market of people that will support this, they just don't know it, and it's hard for them to make that decision. But that's why you gotta do your research as a digital storyteller to find out what kind of markets can you actually promote to, or maybe ask to kind of work with and collab with. And but yeah, it's when it comes to this this putting a filter thing, it's just it's like, why? You know? Because if you can't express yourself creatively and in its full fluency, then I don't know what the point of speaking is.
Because I feel like, especially with your show, a lot of young people are gonna really relate to it, and because it's real, it's authentic. There is swear words, but like that's life. Like in real life, there's no like person beeping out every word you say, right? So it's like, I think like even being a youth worker, like in the way that I talk, I'm not gonna be like, hey, we have great basketball. I'm just be like, yo, you're trying to play ball today. Like it's just authentic, and that's the thing. Sometimes I guess with these networks is maybe they're trying to reach a broader demographic, or maybe a specific, but what your content. I mean, your content is fluid; it can help anyone, right? Yeah. But I mean, like, I guess with them, sometimes it's like a specific type of demographic, and they don't want that.
Yeah, and there are times that you do have to make adjustments, because sometimes nothing else is working, and if this is the only opportunity on board, then there's compromise that has to be fulfilled. So there are situations where, you might have to tone down, some of your language, or just kind of, give or take, or give and take. So, I mean, I understand those situations completely, but then you got to worry about, okay, is this show going to be taken, or is my story going to be taken seriously? Is it gonna feel believable?
Yeah.
You don't want anyone to question whether they buy it or not. But that's kind of what being part of a creative entrepreneur is, man. Like, it's interesting because when you like, let's just step out the creative world for a second. When you are telling someone a story of what happened, it's like, if someone doesn't believe you, you might often hear them say, "Hey, I don't buy that story." So it's crazy because even when you're telling a story, you're almost selling them an idea.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why this whole world of being a creative entrepreneur is really interesting, because at the end of the day, you're looking to try to make, a living for yourself, financially, out of a creative idea that you once came up with, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing with me too. Like, I wanted to curate my content in a way that would sound so like perfect, but you have to realize, and like, you'll know this, and even with people who want to podcast or just have a presence on social media, if you try to script everything and don't add that authenticity, then no one's gonna buy into it. And the thing too, one of the reasons why I wanted to even, like, this is my living room for those who don't know. Like, one of the reasons why I wanted to do it here is some of the most real impactful conversations in my life have happened in this living room. Like, I could have rented out some studio space, but it would, hurt my debit card. But I mean, like, this is just where life happens. So I don't want to be like, super scripted, and that's why I kind of don't tell you guys, the whole questions after, because I just want it to be like real, raw, and whatever comes to you at that moment, right?
That's what's up, man.
But it's tough. It's tough to balance that, because you want to be able to, because the thing is, sometimes you'll have to not compromise in a bad way, but make compromises. So that, like, let's say you're working with a network, I'm sure on Netflix, like, even some shows that come out, they have to have compromises here and there. But I guess it's finding that balance where you're still able to get the heart of your story out, and
exactly. And that's
work with them.
That's kind of where the power of platforms like YouTube come in.
Yeah.
And just the format of web series, because you are the exec. You could do anything you want. There's no limitations. There's no red tape.
Freedom of speech.
Like, you could literally put anything that you want out there in terms of content.
So true.
If it's offensive, people don't have to watch it.
Yeah.
So there's no right or wrong when it comes to you putting out your own project on a platform like YouTube.
Yeah.
Even though I did hear about this new platform called YouTube Red, which is kind of like probably like another form of Netflix, in the sense that they'll probably be streaming original content. So I'm sure there'll be like contracts and negotiations that you have to make. It's actually a really interesting space. I got to look into it a little bit more, but check it out. It seems like it could be cool. But just in terms of using a platform like YouTube, like there's no limitations.
Yeah, well, look at even like Will Smith, even just to maintain relevancy, he's already on YouTube vlogging daily. Like, I think people are sleeping on these mediums and just think they're for young people. Like, one thing I heard is that, video, audio, pictures, they've been, these things that have lasted throughout time. The platforms that they're on change all the time. So, when it used to be TV, now the TV is really essentially your cell phone. Who's paying cable anymore, or who's renewing their cable every when they're renewing now because they can get Netflix, right? So, man.
I mean, because think about it. Like, the interesting part about a TV is that, or part of the excitement of watching TV is that you had to be in front of it to watch it. Something like a phone, it's mobile. You can literally have TV on the go. So the need for sitting in front of your TV anymore is lessening. It's reducing. Yeah, and you have to be able to adjust with, what's going on in the media world, because that's where you see a lot of apps, and a lot of content being made available on things that you can see anywhere you are. You don't have to be sitting on a couch anymore. You can be on the bus on the way to work. Yeah. Or, just like anywhere, So
you kind of talked a little bit about it before in terms of, different hats you have to wear and even just adjusting to the market. Like, like, it's not just being a film director. You have to be someone who learns how to make partnerships, apply for grants, pay your actors, go to conferences and be ambassadors for things like, and promoting. Like, you can be a great film director, but you might have to do your research on YouTube algorithms or Instagram. So can you talk a bit about that behind the scenes of the process that people see the end product, but they don't really know what goes into it?
Yeah. I feel like I guess when you're trying to put out a creative project, and you're trying to watch it for your own pocket, you have a limited budget, limited resources to work with. There's going to be times where you end up doing a lot of the things. In Courtside, my web series Courtside is the perfect example. Some of me and my crew, and someone I work really closely with on the regular, my creative partner Armin O'Made, we had to like triple, quadruple on a lot of the roles, man. We did everything from writing, directing, to producing, and for me, I acted in it as well. So it's like, these are things that we could have outsourced and reached out to people to do, but I mean, it kind of puts demand on other people to get it done how you want it when you want it.
Yeah.
So sometimes the thing you got to do is do it yourself, So,
yeah. So true.
And then that kind of goes for everything, like, you're doing this podcast, you can reach out to, a marketing group to market it, or you can just, learn some marketing tips, from Google or whatever search engine you use.
Well, like even the logo, for those of you who don't know,
even creating a logo, it's like, it's, like that probably takes some type of form of skill, because you got to be on Photoshop, you got to learn how to use these apps.
Amran did the logo, so Amran's going to be on the show.
There you go. But, shout out Amran.
Shout out to Amran for, even being, in this field, but having, different talents in graphic design. So big ups Amran for the logo. I gave him the idea because I know how to use Photoshop, but I don't know how to do the particulars.
Yeah, he's sick with the logos, man. Like his Instagram page at Armin O'Made. It's he has some really cool logos and animation ideas. But just to kind of follow up on the question, in this industry, man, you gotta be able to do more than one thing, because especially with, I feel like, the saturation being increased, especially over the last decade. You can't just be one tone anymore. You got to be multidimensional. Yeah, and it's kind of what helps you set apart. Because once one role is filled, if you have nothing else that you can do as a plan B, or sorry, let me take all that plan B part, because it's actually relates to one of my favorite things that I've heard. But when you're working with an industry that's as saturated as this, man, you have to know how to do more than one thing, because people want to get more out of just one tool. Like it's like using a tool and having multiple purposes out of it. Yeah. It's like we have to be the human version of that tool in the industry.
Wow.
So
it's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And like, it just, not only does it make you more versatile naturally, and not only does it make you more invaluable, it makes whoever's working with you their time a lot easier, because now that's one less thing, or two less things, or three less things that they have to go out and find another person to do, and put another paycheck in their pocket. Not that anything is wrong with that, but if you can be multi-dimensional and very skillful in one person, just makes you that much more invaluable. It shows your worth and what you can do.
So you even mentioned, a saturated market. Like, how do you stay relevant? Like, I feel like even with me being a youth worker, like every 4 years after a grade 9 to 12, that youth's interests are changing, or like even your audience. Like, how do you stay relevant with all the different platforms? How do you keep up with that, man?
You gotta constantly just be on the ball. And for example, like if you're like a news outlet, I feel like you don't have to be the first one to drop information anymore, but you have to tell it in a way that's gonna engage someone. You just gotta find a unique way to express it. It takes a lot of research to find out what's going on in whatever industry, because it's always changing, especially in this industry where so many people are tapping into it and getting into it. Yeah. And you got to be consistent. Yeah. Because I feel like consistency is one of those things that definitely wheeled out the weak ones from the strong ones, because eventually, man, I think endurance reflects your strength. And if you don't have enough endurance to keep doing it until something gives, then eventually that's noticed, and people will also notice that. And sometimes just a personal matter of just, finding the time to be consistent. Yeah. Sometimes it's not, I'm mentally weak and I can't be consistent. So sometimes it takes time to develop that consistency, but that's definitely a factor that goes into it. Just being able to do things that might be saturated in a different way. Yeah. And because if you sound like everybody else, even just being a rapper, if you sound like someone else, then you're known as a copycat, or you're looked at as a copycat, or you're criticized as a copycat. Yeah. It doesn't matter what medium you're in. You got to find a unique way to do it, and you got to be consistent at it and passionate about it. And I think people see the genuine, the genuity in it. So yeah, man, I guess that would be a couple examples of how you could maybe stay relevant in whatever medium you're doing.
Yeah. So can you take us through like your workflow and your process? You're on season 2 now, Courtside. So like how do your nights, how do your days look like?
It's one of the hardest things, man. Like micromanaging, especially being a jack of all trades. Like, one day, you got to edit pictures. The next day you need to write a script.
Yeah.
And then like just looking at the freelance world, maybe a project that you shot like a week ago is due the next week. So you got to find time to make sure that corporation or that client gets their work in the time.
Yeah.
While still managing your own passion projects. And then going to bed or trying to go to bed at a decent enough time, which never happens. So I don't even know why I'm saying it.
5 hours sleep for the past.
Yeah, just trying to like maintain your body to be able to survive a 9 to 5. It's like there's so much that goes into it, man. Like I don't think I have a right formula to tell you, man. Like I think it's just different for everybody. I guess the most basic thing you could do is just look at priority. Certain things you have to do before other things, and you might just have to work it that way until you find some type of workflow. One thing I did try to do earlier on when I was starting to get a lot of like gigs and just from freelance to 9 to 5 obligation and to my own passion project obligation was trying to set a day of the week to each of those. So like maybe Monday I would focus on editing.
Yeah.
And I'll just do editing after working. Tuesday it would be like typing Tuesday where I just focus on like script writing, or like Saturday script writing. So Saturday I had to just devote to script writing, because at least if you, and it might work for you, if you devote a day for one thing, then there's 7 days in the week.
Yeah.
So there's 7 days, and each of those days you're gonna be focused on one of those 7 things that you need to get done in whatever X amount of time. So, and that was something that I don't know why I stopped doing, but I'm definitely gonna try to tap back into. But I mean, just to get things done, man, you gotta kind of experiment, and I'm still experimenting to this day.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's there's really no formula or right formula, I should say, to micromanage a lot.
Yeah.
You just gotta keep the determination up to get it done by any means necessary. And sometimes it's gonna require a lot of late nights.
Yeah.
And sacrifice, and it sucks that when it comes to times where you have to sacrifice one thing for another, but there's even still a positive take from that, because then it kind of shows you, hey, like if I sacrificed this for this, then maybe it's kind of an indication that, hey, maybe I should put more time and energy into this, because it's yourself telling yourself that, hey, like this is what you really want to do.
Yeah.
And you just got to be real with yourself. But it's kind of just experimenting, find whatever works for you, man. And it's something that changes all the time. Like I don't think there's a right formula for it, man.
Yeah. Well, I like that idea of setting deadlines, because I guess it kind of keeps you at focus and how much you can accomplish in a day. For me, like I wish I was like that. I'm a huge procrastinator. I'm still doing my master's. I'll be doing an essay, and it's like, I'm gonna go on. This is me. Like I write like one sentence. Okay, let me reward myself by watching YouTube. The stuff that you would never ever watch. Yeah. Like a panda like falls from a tree, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna watch this, and then it like spirals down into like, soldiers coming home seeing their dogs. Like it's like the most random things, but it's like you're putting something because you don't want to do that, put in the hard work.
But I will say it's funny. It's true. It's 100% facts. I will say it's important to take those breaks, because like you'll really pull your hair out. You'll stress yourself out if you don't take breaks. To just kind of relieve yourself comedically, or with a little interesting vid or whatever it is. And yeah, I mean, I've definitely had my struggles of procrastination. I still do to this day. And, it kind of taps back into that fear of like, man, if I actually accomplish all of these things that I have, like what kind of position is that going to put me in? Like, am I even ready to embrace the next step?
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's really just a subconscious suppressing thing of you just being put in another opportunity that might give you a reality that maybe you're not ready for. But I mean, if it's your vision, man, you have to convince yourself that you are ready for it.
Yeah.
And you got to be willing to put in the work to do it. And fight the nature of procrastination and exhaustion and just, I guess, all the things that try to stop us from getting stuff done.
Yeah, I've even been learning how to hack normal ways of doing things. So like, yesterday I knew that I was gonna be a passenger in a car for 30 minutes. Someone else was driving for us.
Yeah.
And I use that. I've never edited like pulled out my laptop and edited a video, but I needed to get, episode 1 edited. And I actually got a lot done, like, just from doing that. And I realized I'm the kind of person where, like, everything has to be perfect. I have to have my cup of coffee. I have to be sitting here. The sunlight has to be beaming in. You have to be like, or at like a star. Like, I'm just learning how to prioritize my time, and even just being simple, like things that I don't need to do, even though they may be things I can do. Is it beneficial to my workflow right now, right? So in regards to process, and speaking about process, you said in an interview, actually on the E Project, so shout out Jody Ann.
Shout out Jody Ann Bedford.
That you're a product of your environment. So who would you say is, like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to limit it to 5 or 3 or whatever, but who's 3 to 5 people that, speak into your process, and who you go to check about, ideas that you have in your life?
Well, I think first and foremost, with I guess my baby of a project, my passion project, my most passionate project at the time or right now, Courtside. I think naturally, that gives my creative partner Armin O'Made a very special, I guess, place when it comes to inspiration and being amused, because we co-write the project together. I might have originally came up with the idea, but just the complexity of it and what it could be and the potential that it has, it definitely is going to take some help. And I'm grateful for having met someone like Armin in school, and that's part of one of the biggest reasons why going to school for an industry like film or media is important to kind of go to school for, because of the connections, the network. Sometimes you don't always get what you need to from an educational standpoint, but at least the networks and some of the opportunities of people you get to work with and platforms you might get to showcase work on could be rewarding enough. Yeah. So I would definitely say naturally, just working with Courtside from day one, working with Armin on Courtside from day one. He's definitely someone that we talk about, storytelling and ideas on the regs, and it doesn't just stay limited to Courtside. So yeah, that would be one example.
I said 3 to 5, but like if there's 2 or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, of course,
whoever's speaking
naturally. I mean, there's people obviously in Hollywood, which would be a space or I guess an not end result, because I feel like if you use the word end result, it means you're stuck there. I feel like there's always room to grow, and there's always a gap to jump over. But obviously, I have my inspirations of people that work in the industry, who are established in the industry, like Spike Lee, who had a very, very interesting, who has a very, very interesting come up, from acting in his own projects to directing them, and then just becoming more of a director and just focusing on that. Like, of course, I can name drop a lot of people, that are, I guess, Hollywood bound and doing great stuff and have acclaimed titles under their belt today. More on a more personal side, that might be it for now, actually. I think personally.
No, that's cool. That's cool. And that's the thing. It doesn't have to be like, everyone's typical answer is their mom. But I mean, see,
the thing is, I was actually going to say that. Of course, naturally, my mom is definitely a huge source of inspiration. Yeah. Because just seeing her kind of grow up as a single mother, she obviously had to work a lot harder. Yeah. Than someone who, I guess, was kind of born into just a perfect relationship, I guess, and just having half the work kind of shared. Yeah. So, I mean, just seeing her go from job to job, and currently what she's doing, like the job that she's blessed to have right now, and just waking up at the times of the morning that she does, and coming at the times that she does to still be able to provide food, for the family, and get just the stuff done, and its roles and responsibilities as a mother done. It's huge. And yeah, man, I mean, I would love to take her off her feet. Yeah. And stand on mine a little bit longer, and just I feel like with this industry, man, I could do things that will create opportunities to save her from the hardships that she's been through. Yeah. And I feel like in every kid's the back of every child's mind, there's this subconscious, I guess, thought that says, what, we gotta help out our parents, and we gotta give back to them eventually, because eventually they won't be able to help themselves. Yeah. And it would be nice if we can put ourselves in a position and work hard enough to get ourselves in a position for sure, where we can help them, just live easy for the rest of their lives, because they're working hard to make sure that we have chances in our life. So why not return the favor, you know? And it's just kind of part of the process. So of course, my mom is one of my biggest inspirations, just definitely, you know, by default, you know.
Yeah. So I noticed that in episode 5 of season 1 of Courtside, that it kind of touches on, you know, Jay going to see his father and just like that disappointment in terms of, you know, wanting to, I think it was going to the baseball game, right? Or going to the game or something like that, right? So like, why was it important for you to tell that story of, you know, maybe a single living with, you know, a parent who's, you know, divorced or broken families or stuff like that?
Well, by default, I think when you're trying to speak to a demographic, you got to speak to them with relatable content. It was a perfect opportunity to kind of show, I guess, a part of my experience growing up. Obviously, my mom being a single mother in the sense that she never wedded with my dad or married my dad.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's obviously struggles that come with that. And I think every kid's dream is just to grow up in, you know, a combined household of parents and having both their guardians there. So, you know, they can always get the best of both worlds. And sometimes it's hard to just work with parents who are not in the same household and kind of doing their own things.
Yeah.
So I think it was really, really important to just kind of speak to some of my audience on those issues, because there's still where there's a will, there's a way.
For sure.
And a lot of times it could either discourage you or it can actually propel you.
Yeah.
And I'm an example of someone who grew up in that type of scenario, but I use it to propel me. You know, I still try to maintain my relationship with my dad as much as possible. And even though things didn't work out with him and my mom, it doesn't mean things can't work out with me and him. You know, and it's sad to say, because obviously I feel like we're at a point where like nothing's ever gonna happen with my mom and my dad again in terms of love or romance or anything. But you know, like we grow up, we're mature about these things, and you realize the importance of just staying connected with your family as you grow up. And some kids are in worse situations. Some kids don't have a dad at all. But I definitely wanted to just kind of just speak to them naturally, and just address, you know, like it does kind of take a toll on some kids growing up. Some kids are not as good as handling these sensitive subject matters as much as others. So yeah, no, it was super important to keep it real, you know, and just say, hey, like, you know, your dad or your mom is not always going to be around.
Yeah.
And you got to cherish the parent that is around consistently.
For sure.
And if there's a chance to make it work with a guardian who might have been inactive, try. And at least at the end of the day, if it doesn't, you could say you did try, because one of the worst things is regret. And you don't want to be living life saying, what if, you know?
Wow.
That's 2 words I hate to say, you know, or think about. So yeah.
It's something that I had to learn, not just as a youth worker, but just even as a person, because, you know, I was fortunate to have both parents, you know, still living together, still, you know, married and all that kind of stuff. Not that they were perfect, but just having that presence. But when I became a youth worker, you know, it's taught a lot. It's taught me a lot about my patience, and, you know, not to say that in a bad way, but it's taught me to learn to look at every situation, every person, like, don't just look at the action, but look at what's going on in the background, right? It's not just the behavior, right? So, you know, there was this one kid and he was acting out, and then I realized, like, you know, his mom was murdered, or another youth that, you know, maybe the reason why they can't take something or not hearing something from a male authority figure is because, you know, they didn't have that father figure in their life. And I'm not saying that exhaustively, but there's subconscious things that you got to deal with when you lack something in your life, right? Some people might have, you know, lacking a mom, lacking a grandmother, lacking a dad, or, you know, lacking that kind of figure, or even someone who's like a mentor in their life. So being able to realize that on a subconscious level, that can affect their actions is really key. And I think that it's so cool that you played that, because it's hit in the hearts of a lot of people. Like that hit them in their feels. I'm sure a lot of people watching that.
Yeah, right? No, and I've actually got people saying, hey, like, I really related to this episode, and like, well said, and wisely said by you, everything you just said. That's why I feel like we have to be a little bit more mindful before we judge people, because another reason why the show is so important to tell is because, you know, there's a whole other broader spectrum of people who aren't growing up in these rough environments, right?
Yeah.
And Courtside was a perfect name for this, because what it really means is that I'm trying to bring or place people who otherwise wouldn't have grew up in the city or know anything about it, or our neighborhood, like the one where the most of the story takes place. It's like placing front row seats in front of a neighborhood, and you actually seeing what goes on, you know. So there's some thought into it, you know. It wasn't just a jab, or not a jab. It wasn't really just an association with basketball. Yeah. Even though naturally one of the characters is pursuing a career in basketball, it kind of had a duality of meaning and reflection. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Just give me a second.
No, but even with that, like in terms of even the basketball element, like there's a lot of guys in this community that, you know, want to go league or want to play college ball. So like you're touching on a lot of things, and I think that's a skill set of yours that you're going to be able to do with any type of writing. Is I think not only did you add your personal life, but you added what was relevant to that demographic, right? So
yeah. Just to follow up, I mean, the reason why we shouldn't be so quick to judge is because we really don't know people's situations. Like, you know, a lot of people are living under crazy scrutiny, and pressure, and very, very, very bad hardships, or very tough, challenging hardships. Like, I don't feel like anybody just acts up to just act up. Like, I don't think that was ever written in anyone's DNA to just be a nuisance or a menace to society. Yeah, you know, like there's always a backstory, and that's why. Even when you're telling a story, backstory is so important, because it gives you a little bit more insight on why these characters might make the decisions that they do. And I'm a big story guy, and I'm a big character guy. So those are two things I definitely try to put a lot of emphasis on. Yeah. You know, when it comes to telling a narrative story, a creative story. Yeah.
So just before we go on our last set of questions, I always ask all of our guests, and if it doesn't apply to you, it's cool, but if any, what role has faith played in where you are today, or I guess, you know, in some of the decisions you've made in your life?
It's played a tremendous role. Just because when we think back to the reason why we're here, there had to have been some type of higher power that blessed us with everything. I can definitely confirm today spiritually, even though I was just I wouldn't say just, but even though I was born in a traditional Christian faith, I could definitely confirm with my spirituality that I definitely believe in a higher power. For sure. I believe there is something responsible for everything that we are around and breathe, sleep, and eat in. And I'll always have the utmost respect to God for that, and be thankful for just the things that He provides in terms of opportunity, family, just in terms of like life, you know? Yeah. But faith definitely played a tremendous role, because when it comes to depending on, I guess I can say, tangible things like people or products or things that exist right in front of us, I feel like they all have a shelf life. People have a shelf life. Wow. Products have a shelf life. Yeah. Something like faith is abstract. Faith is never ending. It's it's too deeply rooted. It's spirit, it's soul. And souls don't die, you know. Souls, if you believe in that type of faith, and souls kind of get carried upwards, and it's an ongoing thing. So if you don't have something to really believe in, then everything you're doing on earth is just gonna stay here. It's like okay, you live your life, and then what? Like, do you think you're gonna be reincarnated into an animal, like, or do you think like your soul is going to be part of a bigger kingdom, you know, afterwards? It played a huge role, just because, you know, when all else fails, you have to have something to kind of depend in, and depend on, and trust. And for me, that was definitely God. No,
that's cool. I think you hit it right there. Is in you know, a lot of people rely, and everyone naturally rely on the tangible. We rely on what we can see in front of us, what we can touch, you know, what even people that we can rely on. But I guess even that notion that there's something bigger than us, and it doesn't mean that we know it for sure, like, and that's where faith comes into it. It involves an aspect of belief, right? But just, I think in a society where everyone wants everything to be calculated, that there's an explanation for everything, there's room for there's not an explanation for everything. And you're just gonna have to trust, and it involves that risk, right?
That's it. And sometimes it takes an epiphany, or sometimes it takes like a real personal experience to happen or occur in someone's life for them to really, I guess, awake themselves
or
open their eyes. And for other people, sometimes it's just, I guess, the tradition that they grew up in, and just finding a connection to it. Yeah, I guess that's what makes faith one of the most challenging things, is because it's not as tangible as this bottle of water in front of me. You know, I can't say here, like, this is why I believe in it, because it's right in front of us. It's real. You know, like, God is just something that you have to experience on your own, like, personally. Yeah. There's situations that I've been in that I definitely feel like were miracles to come out of them. Yeah. And the only explanation that I could sit comfortably with is the fact that there was something watching over me, and there was something definitely beyond me, beyond us as humans. Yeah. In control of that situation. Yeah. Like, it only makes sense, and that's just what I'm choosing to go with, because there's just some things that can't be explained by humans and science. And it just can't be justified, and we might spend a lifetime trying to do it, but it will never be able to happen. And for me, it's just there's a greater power in the creator of God.
Yeah, I respect that answer so much, even more so than someone like you. You mentioned, like, even though you were brought up in the Christian faith, a lot of people wear their faith like a badge, like, because my mom brought me to church, or because my mom, like, or because the culture. But I respect that answer so much, because in that answer, you're still looking for answers, right? Yep. And you're still looking for why you believe that, and you're not just going to subscribe to something because, you know, everyone in this culture is Christian, or everyone in the community went to church on a Sunday. You believe in something, but you're still in that process, and it's not a cross around the necklace that you just do when you eat bun and cheese on Easter. Like, you're figuring out for yourself. So I respect that so much.
You have to question, man, because when you start questioning, it leads to answers that some people either don't know or are too afraid to say. And some people are not just gonna willingly say, hey, this is what it is. And even if someone says this is what it really is, like, you still have to question, is it
for sure
really is? Like, am I dreaming right now, or am I living in a real life? Like, there's always questions to be asked, and it just kind of expands you philosophically, and religion's the perfect example of that. You know, if you're not mindful to other things and other theories, then you're kind of like a sheep, in the sense that whatever somebody tells you, you just go with. You know, you have to challenge everything it is, and religion's actually one of those biggest things. For
sure. All right, so one thing that I always ask on every episode is, if you could go back in time, what would you tell grade 9 Adrian Wallace just about to enter high school?
Damn, what would I tell grade 9 me? I guess first and foremost, stop procrastinating. I feel like just eliminating or just reducing half the amount of times that I have procrastinated, that alone would have probably propelled me in a better situation. It probably would have somehow brought me closer to my goals, just because of certain, missed opportunities and things that could have came out, or results that I've envisioned or wanted to accomplish. Definitely probably would have happened a lot sooner, because, like, procrastination, that's exactly what procrastination is. It's just a prolonging, you know, like, you're still getting it done, but you're also creating stress for yourself, you know. True. So it's like, it's not only does it reduce stress, when you lack procrastination, because you won't have to work as hard under pressure, but it also just helps you maybe get to your accomplishments and goals a lot quicker. I would definitely tell myself to try to not procrastinate as much. I would tell myself to, or grade 9 me, to maybe get connected earlier. Definitely volunteer more. Yeah. Because a lot of connections come from just being in the right time in the right moment, and you limit yourself if you're not creating those opportunities for you. And what I mean by creating those opportunities for you is, I mean by saying to yourself, hey, I'm going to attend this event, because of my goals, So, I mean, I'm sure there's things that happen that we can't always make it to, but the more that you kind of make yourself available to attend, you'd be surprised out of the things that can come out of it, Especially in this industry, like, connections are everything, man. Your network is everything.
So true.
And, the bigger your network, the more resources you might have later in life. So I would definitely have gone back in time and told myself, hey, like, you know, when you're asked to be involved in something, like say yes more. You know? Say yes more, especially if it's something that, you know, is associated with your dreams and your goals. So those are two big things I would have definitely told grade 9 me.
Awesome. All right, so we've reached that part in the episode where we go to rapid fire. So first thing that comes to your mind, unscripted. All right.
Cool.
So are you a Pepsi or a Coke guy?
Coke.
All right. Yes, that's like actually that's two.
That's the hard. I know I said Coke impulsively, but you see, this is the thing. So now I gotta this opens a whole other question because Pepsi has so many products, and so does Coke. Okay. So are we talking about Pepsi versus Coke, or are we talking about the company now?
No, like the drink Pepsi, the flavor Pepsi.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So
Coke.
Okay, Coke.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of hard to give up Crush, man. You know, and not to be stereotypical, but Grape Crush is. Grape Crush isn't just something because I'm black. It really tastes good. You know what I'm saying? So I had to specify whether you meant Pepsi as a company or Coca-Cola.
I got to think about that next time.
Yeah, trust me.
Canon or Nikon?
Sorry, say it again.
Canon or Nikon?
Canon.
Okay. DC or Marvel?
Oh man, Darvel. Oh no. Shoot, man. That one. All right, Marvel.
Bloopers. DeMar DeRozan or Kyle Lowry?
DeMar.
Who's winning in a game? Current Warriors or 95-96 Bulls?
Current Warriors.
Best thing about being a creative?
The best thing about being creative, man, is that the possibilities are actually endless. You can create anything with a pen, man. Like if you write something on a paper, the chances are it's not going anywhere. You know, if you have a thought in your head, you might forget it the next day.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to write down anything from a movie line, like a line from a dialogue to a more elaborate idea. You got to write it down.
Yeah.
And I think part of the fun of being creative is that, like, if you can write it, if you could think it, you can make it, man. And like with technology advancing nowadays, and just people being capable of creating imagery and creating things that we can actually see and then actually try to understand, even if it's from someone else's vision. There's a lot of excitement in what you can do as a creative.
Yeah. So as a director, what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie, my all-time favorite movie, is The Matrix.
Hey. Awesome.
Yeah.
So if you could go back to a single point in your life, what day would that be?
If I can go back to a single point in my life. Well, I guess to kind of touch back on the question you asked, what would I tell grade 9 Adrian? Maybe grade 9. Because I feel like when you enter high school, man, that's kind of like the beginning of a new world.
True.
And so many things are kind of set. You set the tone for so many things in high school that are hard to come back from and hard to make up grounds for. Yeah. And I might have to say, like, maybe the beginning of high school, because it was kind of a bittersweet experience for me. And going through it already, obviously, naturally, I would have definitely done some things differently. And I feel like high school definitely set the tone for a lot of things and a lot of the situations that came afterwards and that even I went through in the current then, right? So I feel like high school could have been a perfect time to really explore, reevaluate a couple things and do a couple things differently.
For sure. So if there was a movie based on your life, what would the title read? And then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question.
If there was a movie based on my life, what would it be called? Yeah.
Jack of all trades. No, I don't want to answer for you.
That's a good answer. Can I use that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Impulse thoughts. Well, because I believe that it's going to take a lot of discipline, a lot of determination to accomplish what I want to do personally as a creative artist, as a creative entrepreneur, as a digital storyteller, as an actor, as a writer, as everything that I do. I think the best title would be Belief. You know? I don't know if you wanted me to use an existing title of a movie.
No, that whatever you title your movie.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to be unoriginal and use an existing title, it might be Mission Impossible, because I feel like there's fun and there's challenge in doing what seems to be so hard to do.
Yeah.
And that movie is, the whole movie is based on the mission that seems impossible. And I feel like the goals at some time, the doubt hits me.
Yeah.
And I'm discouraged, and I feel like, hey, maybe this is an impossible task to accomplish. So even though it already exists, Mission Impossible might even be a more accurate title to kind of, I guess, reflect my life,
Yeah. And if you couldn't be the actor, are they casting Michael B. Jordan, or who they casting?
Yeah. Probably Michael B. Jordan, man. Now that guy has so much great titles under his belt. I've watched that guy from The Wire all the way to Black Panther and Creed, and like he's definitely one of my favorite actors to date. And I kind of look like him just a little bit. But he's worked with a lot of my favorite actresses too, like Tessa Thompson. Oh my God, I'm like crazy in love with Tessa Thompson. But anyways, I would have to say maybe Michael B. Jordan could definitely do some of my ideas justice, man.
Yeah. So if you could have coffee with anyone from any point in history, dead or alive, or actually let me change it. If you could have a white hot chocolate with an espresso shot with anyone from any point in history, dead or alive, who would it be?
It might have to be one of my biggest idols, man, in the film industry. Probably Will Smith.
Yeah, awesome. So, name a song that puts you in your feelings. Like you hear it and then you just think of like that girl like on the playground who like broke your heart in grade 2.
Oh man. Shoot. We were just talking about this too. Let Me Love You by Mario. That song right there is it just came in the right time, like because I feel like that was like a very interesting time for like I guess romance and relationships.
Yeah.
And he's actually asking a girl to let him love him, and, or let him love her.
Yeah.
And that it's not an easy thing to just say yes to, and that's why that song hits so hard. And like the melody of it, the beat, the rhythm, the lyrics, like everything kind of speaks to you, especially when you're at that age, because that song came out way back like 2009 or something like that. It's a very interesting like space to be in because you're trying to not only figure out yourself but figure out what you're looking for in like a partner. Subconsciously, so that's a big song, huge song.
So, what style did you rock that you wish you never rocked?
I think it would have to be this like gangster, oversized like clothing, man. Like,
that's what John said too.
Because like it's just like why, man? Like that's probably 90% of the clothes that I've recently given away. Like
the Soulja Boy
tees,
style.
It's so easy to get influenced by what you see on TV, and like you said, Soulja Boy was huge. When you have a platform, man, people just seem to gravitate towards you, especially being like a black youth.
Yeah.
Growing up, man, you just want to copy what you think is cool, or imitate what you think is cool. So I definitely have to say these oversized tees and these baggy pants, and because those are not clothes that I'd wear today, man. They're just not,
Yeah. All right, so what show that ended do you wish had another season?
Oh man, I would have to say Breaking Bad. Just because of, and just me thinking about it, and it was so well written. The characters were really engaging, and the backstory that they did to justify the actions that they I guess the creators had them go through and do. It was just really put together, well put together. And it was the first show that I ever binge watched in like the smallest amount of time. Like I think I binge watched just season 3 alone of Breaking Bad in like a day. Like
wow.
And like I think I watched 5 seasons in a month, but that one season, man, I think I watched in a week. So I mean, like that was one of the shows where like I watched the most of in the shortest amount of time, and that show just spoke volumes to me. I wish there was a season 6, for sure.
For sure. So when you eventually die, what would you want your biggest legacy that you leave behind to be?
The biggest legacy that I would want to leave behind is, definitely a fortune for my family, financially, just so they can be easily more inclined to accomplish things, and definitely inspiration. I'm hoping that even through the hardships that I may have gone through, that I could prove to the world and to my family, those close to me, that you can really accomplish anything. Mm-hmm. In terms of my personal legacy, man, I definitely want to leave behind something for my future family to be proud of, something that can maybe take care of them financially for sure, and something that can maybe be continued. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I was kind of discouraging like the whole family business thing, but I feel like if you create something that has enough versatility in it, then maybe there's something for everyone to do in it within that. So yeah.
Sweet. All right, last one. So if your life was a book, what's the title of the current chapter of your life right now?
The title of the current chapter would have to be Focus.
Why would you say that? I mean, that's a stupid question. It's like, did you just watch this whole podcast?
No,
episode?
It's not a stupid question. Because I feel like right now, man, like this is the time to really prove myself as everything that I say I am.
Yeah.
Because I feel like something's got to give, and something will give sooner or later.
Yeah.
And it's gonna take great discipline, but especially focus. And it's very easy to get distracted with everything going on,
Yeah.
So I feel like focus has got to be the thing that I pay attention to, or the title that I reflect, like actually in my life, and just stay committed and get stuff done, man.
For sure.
It will create doors.
Yeah.
To go through.
All right, so now it's guest corner. So your opportunity for your plugs, anything you got going on, social media, and then if you want to kind of give the listeners a little last encouragement.
So what I got currently in development right now are a couple things. I am the founder of a blog called Buzz and Other Drugs, which pretty much deals with all sorts of elements of pop culture. And you could find that at Buzz and Other Drugs on Instagram. There's no Twitter for it yet, but you could find it on Facebook as well at Buzz and Other Drugs. And the blog, I am working on a domain for it, which eventually will be buzzandotherdrugs.com. But right now, the site that's active is buzzandotherdrugs.wordpress.com. My passion project, my baby, Courtside series, could be found on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Courtside series. Please subscribe. Please check it out. Let me know what you think. I'm always trying to improve on what people might want to see and things I could do to better it.
And I'll drop everything in the description.
Yeah, for sure. And my Instagram is AWALLove. On that, you might see me, go from dropping a comedy skit to dropping a promotion for another project, another narrative form project, or whatever it is. I feel like Instagram is kind of that middle ground to just show everything. So it's definitely one of the most important social media accounts for me, just in terms of exposing what I do as an entrepreneur and as a creative. And yeah, I think I touched everything.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then any last thing you want to say to the listeners?
I guess if I can have a moment to address people who might be in a similar situation as me, in terms of being a digital storyteller, being a narrative storyteller, and just being someone who's trying to create content that resonates with people. People are so filtered and picky nowadays, and that's what kind of makes it hard to create something that everyone could relate to or everyone could resonate to. So for me, I think an important thing to remember is that if you can at least get one person to react emotionally, if you can just get one person to laugh, even like if it's a skit, like if you can just connect with one person or provoke one emotion in one person out of an audience out of 100, believe it or not, whatever you put out, that specific project was a success, because that means at least one person actually connected with something that you did, and it might actually inspire them, it might change them, it probably provoked a thought, and it might have provoked an emotion. It means you did something. It means you touched them in some way. So don't be discouraged by the pressures of being able to please everybody, because I definitely think that's an impossible task.
Yeah.
Because you can't please everybody. Please yourself first, for sure. And like I said, if you are able to just connect with one person with a project that you put out, then I think you should be happy about the job done.
That's success. Yeah. That actually sets up perfectly. A part I like to do on the show is just give my guests a word of encouragement, because I know you, like, obviously, you got to put food on the table, you got to make money, you got to pay for stuff. But I think at the core of what you do is you want to elicit emotional reactions from people, and you just want to add value into their life. And I know that, even with Courtside, you're doing a lot of things out of your own pocket. But I know even though, of course, everyone wants to be successful, and how we define success is differently. But I know ultimately your goal is you just want your story to be told, and you just want your creative flair to just go through whatever you produce. And you're oftentimes thinking about how people will see this and how people will react. So I just want to, big you up for that you're very unselfish in that manner.
Thank you, man.
Another thing is you're demonstrating to young people that they don't have to conform or fit into, a certain category, and you're literally living out in Malton that people can be successful and take themselves places and, get themselves known. And with that, you're changing that Malton stigma from being negative to positive, because I always hear nothing good comes out of Malton. There's multiple people, and you're one of them. So just wanted to congratulate you on that. And like I said, your ability to communicate is really powerful, and you're changing lives just by the content that you produce. And I think that's so key, is if one person was impacted, you've done your job. But I know that more than one people are doing it. So you're changing lives just by the content, in the little nuances and the little scenes here and the big scenes. Like your creativity is changing lives. So I big you up on that. And just lastly, like you said, you're a jack of all trades. You're a multifaceted, talented individual, and not just on an individual level in terms of what you can do, but you're going to be a huge asset to whatever person, company, organization that you end up being with. Even if it's by yourself, like to be able to mentor other people, you're so multifaceted that you're not a one-trick kind of guy. So yeah, even me, you encourage me just to not just be a one-sided guy, but to look at it from all sides of the coin and all aspects.
Yeah, so, man. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, man.
That definitely was more than I could have ever asked for sure. If I was to, ask for some praise, which I would never do. But thank you so much. It was really nice to say that. I've definitely seen you come up from just being a community activist to, getting involved and just trying to use a platform to kind of engage, with people. And just do things that you're passionate about. So
appreciate it.
I definitely want to encourage you to keep doing it, man. And I can't wait to see this show on a bigger platform.
I appreciate it.
I just can't wait to see us. I just can't wait to see what's behind the door.
For both of us.
And man, this is I'm definitely happy to be a part of this. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for being on the show, because your presence elevates my reach. So appreciate that.
Hey, man, likewise, man, for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I just wanted to thank you for being on the show today. And like I said, I'll drop everything in the description. So definitely check out Courtside Season 2 when it comes out. Season 1, it's going to be your next Netflix series coming out.
It's a little bit of a word-to-word thing. But
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, man.